That was loud. Nice. I heard that. Okay, cool. So, in our first workshop, um, we had the introduction to the Somalian basics. I'm so sorry. Where we gave you a peek into what Somalian looks like by showing you how to Somalian. So how it is done and what it looks like. So today will kind of be a part two to that workshop, right? To that question of how to MUN. And as a quick recap, right? In our previous Mulligan Basics workshop, we talked about the two different types of procedures in all sorts of conferences, so including those in law and politics. We spoke about Robert's Rule of Order, and then we spoke about parliamentary procedure. So for those who were there at the workshop, or even who weren't, does anyone remember or could take a guess at what the key difference is between the two, between Robert's Rule of Order and parliamentary procedure? And the hint is that it's kind of in the name, in the name parliament, right? So can anyone take like a jab at it, like what the difference was? Any guesses? You can like say it in the chat. You can just interrupt me. It's fine. Either or works. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. So this is just a recap, right? And this is for us to learn too. So the main difference was, and I put these images here, the main difference, the biggest difference between the two was that one was parliament, right? Parliament means that it makes and changes laws, right? So it's kind of a more executive, right? So that's parliamentary procedure. And Robert's Rule of Order is not parliament, right? So Robert's Rule of Order does not make laws and it doesn't change laws. It doesn't make any, right? Robert's Rule of Order just kind of suggests or like gives advice to issues at hand. So we also talked about how these two are different in terms of what they look like in the real world. So these two procedures make Mol UN and the actual UN, they look very different from each other. The United Nations is not a parliament, so it's more Robert's Rule of Order. That means that the actual UN doesn't make or change laws. The actual UN just gives advice, it just gives recommendations. And the parliamentary procedure aspect is more similar to Model UN, right? So at Model UN, we kind of have a bit of like an advantage over the actual UN, where we kind of pretend to make laws. We kind of pretend that we have the power to change the course of things and to actually enforce our decisions, right, upon countries and all sorts of things, all sorts of governments and governing bodies. But the UN can't do that, right? They can't really enforce their decisions. They can only make, again, advice. Okay, does that kind of make sense? Or were there any questions? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Okay. And so remember that because parliamentary procedure is involved with creating and changing laws, that means that parliamentary procedure is a little bit more complicated, right, than Robert's Rule of Order. It has more going on because it has the lawmaking part of it. It's not just the discussion, it's also writing down on paper what the solution should be to problems and what they should do about it, right? So we see that they both have something similar. They have the people within the conference. They both need a moderator, or AKA a chair. We call it a chair, someone who moderates the discussion. And they both need the people who are involved in the debate, which are AKA the delegates, right? The delegates are the people who are discussing and debating. But now we're going to talk about some additional differences, right? They're in the yellow here. And these two here, pointed by the red arrows, are what we're going to be focusing on today. We're going to be talking about mods, or moderated caucuses, and unmods, unmoderated caucuses, points, and motions. We talked a little bit about this in our first workshop, but we're just going to review it again today. And for anyone who didn't come to previous workshops, it's just going to be like just learning from scratch. It's completely fine. All you need to know about the difference between moderated caucuses and unmoderated caucuses, aka mods and unmods, is that it's within the name. It's kind of self-explanatory a little bit. So in a moderated caucus, right, the moderator is in charge of the discussion, right? So think of it as if class had like started, right? And all the students are kind of taking their seats and they can only speak up when their hand is raised. We did this in last week's drill. We also did this before that, where we have a discussion in a moderated form. So I would be the moderator. Me and Aya were your chairs, and people were only allowed to speak once they raised their hand or said that they wanted to in the chat or anything like that. You have to signify that you want to talk, right? There's that sort of like rule of like etiquette. Like you can't just like blurt out whatever you want to say. It's more formal, right? And you can see that on the photo too. Like they're raising their placards with their, it's supposed to be like their country's name. So they have to raise their placard in order to talk. So that is a moderated caucus. It's very formal, kind of like a classroom setting, okay? So that's mods. The opposite of that would be an unmoderated caucus, right? Or an unmod for short. So think of an unmod as when the teacher asks the class to like divide the students into groups and for them to discuss something freely, okay? So that's kind of like that, a little bit informal, sort of more like free conversation, and with whoever you want, really. So you see that in the photo. People are just kind of standing up and talking to whoever. Um, there's no kind of like formality here. They're just kind of everywhere. So that's kind of what an unmoderated caucus is, right? The complete opposite to the previous one. Um, very, very less formal, okay? And people are just talking freely and whatnot. So those are those two. Those are moderated caucuses and unmoderated caucuses. Um, and what I think how you can view unmods as well is that the moderator is not in charge of the discussion during an unmod anymore, okay? So people are just talking as they want to. No one's in charge of their discussion. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that? Is that kind of, I put the photos so that it kind of like, I need visuals. So like you just kind of see what it looks like, but okay, yeah, awesome. So now that that was covered, the question becomes, you know, how do you even start a moderated caucus or an unmoderated caucus, right? So when does that kind of begin in the discussion, right? When do you decide to start either or? When do you switch between the two, right? Like how does it work? Well, in our first workshop, we had this video which we watched before that explained kind of what mods and unmods look like. And it also talked about how they can start. So we'll see again, and for those people who didn't watch it, what an unmod and mod look like in this video and what they mean. The video is also going to mention something called points and motions, which are ways that you, as a delegate, right, as someone who's discussing in the debate, the debater can start the debate, right? Like, how do you start the debate? How do you start a mod? How do you start an unmod? That's what points and motions do, okay? And so for context, before we play this video, for context, let me just, oh yeah. So for context, this is what the flow of debate looks like in multi-UN. This is the flow of parliamentary procedure, okay? So for context in the video, they first already covered roll call where they took attendance. And now they're kind of moving into the debate aspect, the discussion aspect. So for the sake of this video, I just want you to note that we are going to continue the video around here where the red arrow is, just before getting into the debate. And notice the terms we talked about earlier, moderated and unmoderated caucuses are mentioned in here in the debating the topic part at the green box below it. So the video is going to demonstrate all of those to you, okay? So let me see how I can play it without my laptop being laggy. Let me just,
If you want, I can play it.
okay, awesome. Yeah, that'd be good.
Let me share my screen then. I do need to get co-host, I believe.
Okay, let me give that to you. Tech is crazy. Okay, nice. How is this?
I think it's working. Okay.
Okay, awesome. Let me stop sharing.
All right, let me know if you can see that. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna play now. Let me know if you can
Okay.
hear the audio as well, by the way.
Sure. Yeah.
You can
I
hear the
don't.
audio?
Yeah. No.
Okay, let me just see if it's sharing the audio over here.
Sure.
The chair
No?
recognizes United Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates moves to set the agenda topic to topic 2, followed by topic 1.
That motion is in order at this time. This motion requires 2 speakers for and 2 speakers against. United Arab Emirates. Djibouti. And against? Holy See and Jamaica. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? The motion clearly passes. Japan.
Japan moves for a moderated caucus of 15 minutes to discuss topic area 2 with 2 minutes speaking time and 1 point of inquiry.
Holy See.
Holy See moves for 30 minutes of unmoderated caucus for purpose of
Canada.
Canada moves to bring Resolution 1.3 to the floor.
The motion is in order at this time. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? The motion clearly passes. Holy See.
Holy See moves to close debate on topic 2.
All those in favor of Resolution 1.3, please raise your placards. All those opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. The chair recognizes Djibouti at this time.
Djibouti moves for a roll call vote.
That motion Canada.
Yes.
Djibouti.
Yes.
Holy See.
Abstain.
Jamaica.
Yes.
Japan.
Yes.
United Arab Emirates.
No with rights.
The resolution passes. Japan.
Japan moves for suspension of the meeting until 2 o'clock for the purpose of lunch.
Point of order.
Point of information.
Point of inquiry.
And in conclusion, I propose that all delegates from the United Arab Emirates shower before they present themselves to this caucus.
Decorum, delegates! Delegates, the chair would like to remind you of Rule 2.2, diplomatic.
Quiz time!
All right, guys, quiz time. Steve has received a rather suggestive note from the delegation of Australia. What motions should Steve propose in order to have time to discuss the topics within the note?
And it's Charlotte by hair. Charlotte. And the winner is Charlotte.
I believe it's over. Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Yeah, that finished pretty much the whole video. But okay, let me switch back to my screen. Okay, so did anyone have any questions about the video? That was kind of a lot.
I got a question.
Yeah, please. Mhm.
So when when one delegate decides they want to, call for the end of the discussion or whatever, what happens if, let's say, someone else doesn't want the discussion to come to an end?
Yeah, awesome. Great question. So notice that sometimes when people motioned for things, they had like a voting, a quick like vote on it. So they either did like a roll call vote, just kind of extra, but it's normally just all those in favor, like, so you would raise your placard if you say yes to suspending debate, or all those opposed, all those who raise their placard to say no to it, and then they just count it. That's typical for motions. So anytime a delegate motions for something, it's voted upon. It doesn't just go because you say so, especially for things like ending discussion or starting discussion, right? You have to vote upon it. So it's like it's a group decision almost. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I was just like, what happens if they just cut it short? Someone's like, yeah, no, I don't want to talk about
Yeah,
this.
right. Yeah, so you can definitely, you can lose that. Like I can motion to suspend this workshop right now, but if we took a vote and everyone said no, then it doesn't end, right? Because it was a majority, right? Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
That was a good eye. Yeah. So you saw that people were voting for things. Did anyone else notice anything in the video that they wanted to maybe ask, or we can talk about the motion specifically. So does anyone remember like the types of motions that they saw in the video? It could be anything, like any types of motions you saw them kind of talk about or point out. Or did someone say something in the chat? Or, yeah. Anyway? No. Okay, that's okay, because there was a lot, right? So there were plenty of motions in that video, and that's because motions are what allow you to control debate as a delegate, right? So you can motion to talk about something, right? You can motion to break into groups to write solutions. You can motion to do practically anything in parliamentary procedure and in MAL-UN. And here are just some of the most useful and common motions in the MAL-UN world, and this is quite a lot, right? The red column has like pretty much the basics that you saw in the video, like motioning for a moderated caucus, which means you're motioning for discussion, motioning for an unmoderated caucus, wanting to break up into groups and just write resolution papers. They were doing something stupid in the corner in the video. I don't know what they were doing, but they motioned for that. You can do that. They were motioning to introduce solution papers. It can be called directives or resolution papers. That's a future topic, but they were motioning for that. They were motioning to vote on those resolution papers. You can motion for all sorts of things. The key word though is to motion for it. In order to do anything as a delegate, you have to motion for it. right? So you have to tell the moderator or your chair what you want to happen. And that thing, depending on what it is, won't happen unless it's voted upon. Majority of the time, it won't happen unless it's voted upon. So yes, so motions are the key. They allow you to do things. But to keep things simple, right? These are the four most common motions in Somalian. And these are also motions that I want everyone to use from now on in our drills. So for anyone who's new to workshop, we every week we try to have like small drills, small debate drills on like a random topic, just to like break the ice and kind of like get into debate, right? This is Somalian is a very debate heavy club, very debate heavy extracurricular. So the better at debate you are means the better, the more you practice, right? So practice will make you perfect. So we try to do a little bit every week. So from now on for the drills, I want us to use these four emotions, right? So we can go over them in order. So from the top, right? Motioning for a moderated caucus. Again, that's motioning for a structured debate about a specific topic. So how you would motion for that is, I would motion for you would say how long you want the debate to be, the discussion to be. So let's say I want it to be for 10 minutes. I want to motion for a 10-minute moderated caucus on some topic about cheese. I want a 10-minute discussion about cheese, okay? So that's how you structure it. And with that, you have to also mention the speaking time. So something called the speaking time. A speaking time means the amount of time each person has to talk within this discussion. So saying I want a 10-minute moderated caucus on cheese doesn't mean that I'm just gonna talk for 10 minutes about cheese and that's it. No, it's a debate. We're all talking to each other. So there's gonna be a set speaking time per person within that 10-minute frame for all of us to talk if we want to, right? So typically 30 seconds would fit into 10 minutes. It just evens out like that. If you put 30 seconds into 10 minutes, it just fits evenly. So I could say, I motion for a 10-minute moderated caucus on the topic of cheese with a speaking time of 30 seconds. So that means that the whole debate, the whole mod is for 10 minutes about cheese, and each person who wants to talk to raise their placard and is picked on will have 30 seconds to talk. That's what it means. Does that make sense? A little bit confusing. Yeah, explained it horribly. It also, it doesn't have to be 30 seconds. That's just typical in Maliwan culture. That's just being nice. You could just be crazy and say you want a 5-second speaking time. Everyone has 5 seconds to say something within the 10-minute frame. I don't know how that's gonna work, but you can do that. That's completely valid, sure. And that's gonna be voted upon, right? So I motion for that, that 10-minute moderated caucus on cheese, 30-second speaking time or 5-second speaking time. And then everyone will have to vote on it. So all those in favor for that motion and then all those opposed. So that's what it looks like. Does anyone have questions about that? Okay, cool. Did anyone want to like try to motion for something, like just as an example? Like I gave an example, like I want to motion for a 10-minute moderated caucus on cheese with a 30-second speaking time. Does anyone want to try to motion for a moderated caucus? Just throwing a random topic, random amount of time, speaking time. Does
Can we
anyone
vote on that?
What is it? Sorry.
Can we vote on that?
Do you want to vote on that? Yeah, okay. So
Yeah,
voting would
I'm all for it.
typically look like you're all for it. Okay. I guess we should have made the drill topic about cheese, but damn it. Okay, maybe in the future. Yeah, so voting upon it would look like all those in favor. So that means whoever wants that would raise their placard. And typically the chair would count how many people say yes, and then they would lower their placards, and then all those opposed, and they would just count how many people don't want it. And it's normally majority. It's kind of like democracy, you know, they pick what the majority says. Okay. No one wants to try? Okay, that's fine. In the drill, you're gonna have to, so it's fine, whatever. Okay, so that's a moderated caucus. The same thing is for an unmoderated caucus, right? So for an unmoderated caucus, you have to mention the the time, and I think that that's pretty much it. You don't have to give a topic. I don't know why it says subject here. You don't have to give a subject for it. You can just say a motion for a 10-minute unmoderated caucus. And that's it. And that's going to be voted upon. Whoever wants that, whoever doesn't, cool. Notice in this box that it says gentleman's unmod. So it says it here in the box that a gentleman's unmod is an unmod where all delegates stay seated. So it's like an unmod in the sense that there's no structure. So you don't have to raise your hand to talk. You can just blurt out whatever you want, but you're in your seats. So it's not like the photo and it's not like the video where you saw everyone standing up, getting out of their seats, talking to people, going wherever they want, right? A gentleman's unmod is like a normal unmod, but you're in your seat and you're just kind of blurting whatever you want, but on your seat. Yeah, kind of weird. Oh yeah, did you want to say something? Someone was there.
Yeah, I have a question. Is there like a certain limit to how many times the moderated or unmoderated caucuses can be called, except for like the time limit?
Definitely not according to parliamentary procedure, but it is up to your chair. So your chair will be in charge of, they're the moderator, right? So they're in charge of letting mods or unmods being recognized or like hearing people out and seeing what delegates want. And then it's up to the rest of the room to vote upon those things, right? So it's up to everyone what they want, kind of what the vibe is. So there's really no limit. If everyone says yes to an unmod all the time, then that's just what everyone wants, and that's just how it is. Yeah, that's completely fine. There's really no limit, I suppose. Yeah.
Got it. And there's no like difference between, as in like, you don't have to have more moderated caucuses than unmoderated caucuses or anything like that, right?
No, no. Sometimes
Okay.
the chair as a moderator will have a preference. Like maybe they want to see more discussion. So maybe they'll give a hint and be like, hey guys, like the chair would really love to see a moderated caucus right now. And then someone would motion for a moderated caucus. They would do something like that, but that's just a recommendation. The chair can't force something to happen, not typically. So yeah, there's virtually no limit. There's no set number for any of these things. You just motion whatever you want. Yeah.
I see.
Justin,
Thank
you
you.
have a question? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, I was just curious, who decides who the chair is if there's like so many nations and this and that?
Okay, awesome. So are you talking about the UN or Mali UN?
That's a good question. If you can answer both, why not?
Yeah, so I mean, typically the UN and in General Assembly sessions I've seen, it's the Secretary General who's moderating debate. From what the clips that I've seen, maybe there are some cases where they're not, or maybe it's someone else, like a Deputy General. But for Mall UN purposes, right? So for Mall UN, I'm Secretary General, and I, as Deputy General, we don't have to moderate. And in the Mall UN world, right, where you see committees out there in conferences, the chair is just kind of like staff. So it's just like a hiring process, kind of like e-board. You just look for people who want to do something like that, want to learn to do something like that. Speaking of which, HealthMUN, we are definitely going to be hiring for a chair in the future when we plan to run our own conference at some point. So we're going to have to go through that hiring phase. We're going to have to be asking people to apply, interviewing maybe, and just seeing who's a good fit for it. Yeah. So before that, until then, right, until that application process, we're just kind of teaching about it to give everyone a fair chance at applying at some point. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's determined in Mall UN. And in the UN, it's the Secretary General, typically. From what I've seen, I think it could be other people who are in charge, but yeah. Yeah, did you have a question, Prashik?
Yeah, kind of. I hope this is not going too off topic, but I was just
No.
wondering if this is all relevant only to like the General Assembly, or if it's also relevant to like crisis councils and other types of UN conference. Yeah, whatever.
Right, right. So you're spoiling a little bit, okay? So you're
Sorry about
spoiling
that.
a little bit. No, it's fine. I love it. I love it. So that is definitely a future workshop topic where we get into different types of committees. So some committees are like what I've said, it's a general assembly, and that looks a certain way. And then there are other committees that are not General Assembly, they're specialized, quote unquote. We call it specialized in both the UN and in MAL-UN. But in MAL-UN, right, specialized looks very different. In the UN, this procedure just kind of looks the same. This is all in Robert's Rule of Order, like asking to discuss things, asking to suspend discussion, all of that jazz is in Robert's Rule of Order as well. MAL-UN is just gonna look a little different with different types of committees. So in MAL-UN, there's not just General Assembly, there's other types that are specialized, right? And we'll discuss specialized in future workshops. Yeah, and that's my favorite kind. So I can't wait until then. Yeah, for sure. Were there any other questions about mods and unmods? And did anyone want to try to motion for one, like as a practice? We're gonna do a drill, so it's okay if you don't want to now, but maybe you'll have to later. Yeah.
For which one? For moderated or unmoderated?
Yeah, try to motion for a moderated caucus because that's a little bit more complicated. You have to motion with a subject, like a topic, a time for the whole mod, and then a speaking time. So do you want to take a jab at it?
I got
Yeah,
it.
go for it.
Okay,
Nice.
so I want to call into order a moderated caucus with 30-minute or 30 minutes long on the subject of on the subject of what's a good subject? The
Anything.
moon with a speaking time of 1 minute per person.
Okay, awesome. That's a mod. Congratulations. You just motioned for your first moderated caucus. Yeah, that's a pretty long moderated caucus. That's like real UN stuff where they talk for like 30 minutes straight about the moon. That's pretty cool. I'd want to do that. Yeah, yeah. See, you motioned for a 30-minute discussion about the moon and stuff, and with a speaking time of 1 minute. So each person who wants to talk has 1 minute to talk. And that whole discussion time takes 30 minutes. Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Did anyone else want to try? And if not, it's okay. It's fine. It's fun. Yeah. Okay. Oh, also notice how Justin phrased it differently, which is completely fine. He said, I would like to call for a 30-minute moderated caucus. And that's completely valid. In MAL-UN, everyone will still know what you're talking about. A motion is a motion. You don't have to say the word motion to call for a motion. And in the video, they did something similar. They said, I would like to move to a something something mod. That's fine. You can be fancy and creative with it however you want. You'll kind of just know what they're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Okay, awesome. That was fun. Cool, cool. Thank you so much, Justin. That was great. That's for the books. Okay, so those are the red blocks here, the mods and the unmods. Now we have the ones in the purple. You can motion to end debate. It says here there are two types of ways to end certain types of debates. There's the motion to suspend debate and then the motion to adjourn debate. So what's the difference between the two? So it says in the blocks that motioning to suspend debate means you end the motion, right? So you use this motion in between debate. This is so weird, I don't know how to phrase it like that, but the way they're saying it is that, let's say you're in a discussion, let's say you're in a moderated caucus, right? And it's kind of getting dry. No one's really raising their placard. No one really wants to talk. It's bland. The group chat is dying, okay? So you feel like ending the discussion is appropriate. So you can do that. You can motion to suspend debate. You can raise your placard in the middle of the discussion and say, I want to motion to end this moderated caucus or motion to suspend debate. That's what this means, right? Suspending debate that's going on right now, okay? That's what suspension is. Motion to adjourn debate means you use this motion at the end of the day and for the final committee session. So it's like what it says. So at the very end of the entire day, right? So the moderated caucus has ended. Let's say the 30 minutes of talking about the moon has elapsed. It's over. Everyone said their piece. And now it's time to just go home and sleep and come back the next day, right? So you don't just get up and leave, right? And just, oh, see you tomorrow. No, you motion to adjourn debate first, right? It's just like formal like that, right? So you say I motion to adjourn debate or motion to close debate. That's pretty popular as well. People will say close debate a lot. And something similar to that too, it's not here, but just like how we motion to close debate for the day, we motion to open debate for the day as well. We motion to start off the day with discussion and open the floor to debate. So that's not there, but that's also something that's pretty common. But it's like the opposite of motioning to adjourn debate, if that makes sense. Okay, so as a quick recap, motion to suspend debate is ending the discussion that's going on like right now. Okay, so current debate, I want to end the discussion right now. That's suspension. But motioning to adjourn the debate the whole day, like the entire committee, the entire discussion, right? Means to motion to adjourn debate. Okay? Does anyone have any questions about that? Kind of confusing. I get it. Well, these slides
So,
are saved.
sorry.
Yes.
I was gonna say,
No.
so suspend, like, let's say we're talking about a topic today, but we want to talk, like, I want to keep, or someone wants to keep talking about it tomorrow. Is that you would suspend it for the day and then come back to it the next day?
Yeah,
Or
so
did I
you
just
would have
completely
to
miss
motion to adjourn debate. So if it's like ending it for the day and you're coming back the next day, that would typically be motioning to adjourn it because it's the whole thing is over, right? So I think a good way to understand it is when you motion to adjourn debate, you can't motion for things anymore. Like you're back to normal. Like you're not in Molly-Wen mode. You know, you're not a delegate anymore. You can't motion for a new moderated caucus. You can't motion for an unmoderated caucus. You're done and you're expected to leave, you know? Kind of think about it like that. And you come back the next day or whenever you come back and start Molly-Wen all over again. Motioning to adjourn debate ends Molly-Wen. Like Molly-Wen is over when you motion to adjourn debate or close debate. Okay?
So that's just for that day, right? Or is that for the entire like I believe what
That day.
Justin is getting at is like
Yeah.
it's just for that specific day, right? So like you're gonna continue with the topic again the next day, and you motion to open the debate again.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's to end the day. Yeah. So
Right.
if what you plan to do after you motion to end debate is to go home and to sleep and not to motion for a new moderated caucus or a new unmoderated caucus or to continue the discussion, then it's adjourning the debate. Like everything is over and we're all just going back to our normal lives, you know? We're not in Molly-Wen mode.
Okay.
But
That makes
For the
sense.
day. Yeah, okay. Right.
So
okay, awesome.
suspending would be like we're talking about X topic. Okay, we're sick of this topic. Suspend it, and then we can start a new one.
Yes, exactly. And you can start a new one. Exactly.
Okay.
So
That's
motion to suspend debate means if let's say everyone says yes, let's end this topic about cheese. It's stupid. Cool. Now you can motion for a new moderated caucus because Molly-Wen's not over. You just suspended the current discussion, but we can start a new discussion about something else. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Prashak, yeah, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm also assuming the relevance of the topic depends on the chair. Like as in if it's like relevant or not, if it should be passed as like a motion.
Yeah.
That
So
depends on the chair, right? Yeah.
that's
What I
also
was trying to get at, sorry, what I was trying to get at was that like if like a moderated caucus is not really related to the previous one thing that was talked about,
yeah.
right? Even if like the motion was suspended,
Mhm.
to like suspend the debate basically, would that be fine if it was like a different topic for two different moderated caucuses?
So are you asking like you can motion for a moderate caucus of a different topic, like right after?
Yeah, like depend like the relevance of the topic to like discussion that was happening beforehand. Like, does it have to be like a certain threshold of
No,
like relevance?
no.
Okay,
So
so
there's
okay.
really no, yeah. So there's really no threshold. The threshold is the chair. Like the chair will ask for things and not ask for things and will suggest things, but there's really no limit for what you can do, right? The chair will, the moderator's job is to not just keep formality, but also to kind of guide the debate and the discussion, right? To kind of keep it on track, make sure they're talking about things that are relevant, you know, because it's a debate. It's very easy to get lost in details and to go off topic. And introduce new things that are not related to the topic at hand. So the moderator's job is to make sure everything's on track, right? So the moderator, the chair, will give, recommendations and will look favorably upon certain things. Yeah, they would give recommendations, but you can do whatever you want, you can motion for whatever you want for whatever topic. Yeah, but
That's
just
it. Thank
keep
you
in
very much.
mind that, yeah, I got you. Just keep in mind that when you do motion for things, even though the chair is not voting on that motion, the rest of your room is. So you're gonna have to motion for something that everyone else wants too, right? So it's kind of like you're trying to motion for, you're trying to understand what the vibe is. Like, what does everyone want right now? Yeah. I think these are skills that demands from a leader. You have to know what the group wants and kind of wants to focus on first, and you have to take initiative with sort of strategically. You can't just try to initiate things your own way. You have to do things with the group. You're not going to be able to get anything done if you want to do things alone. You have to work with other people in the room. Yeah. So these are great questions. Yeah, these are like pretty common. So it's good to understand these more than anything, more than these, because we will get to these in the future over time. But these are very, very common. These are must knows kind of in MAL-UN. Yeah, you have to know these. Did anyone have any other questions about these? Okay, awesome, cool. So you can like take a picture of this. We'll remember, we'll send the slides in, so you can always come back to this too. But these are very commonly used, and I want, sorry, my throat is dying. I want people to use these motions more for drills. So for drills, it's not that me and I are going to just start discussion like out of the blue. I'm gonna expect people to motion for discussion now. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you what the topic is, and I expect you to motion for a moderated caucus of that topic, a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of speaking time. Okay? Yes, and we'll be like your chairs. And that's how we get better. We just keep practicing like that. And when it's over, we'll ask to motion to end debate, to adjourn debate in this case, because after we end it, we just want to go home and we're going to rest up. We're not going to do any more motioning. So, okay? Okay, so those were motions. Now we'll talk about points. So these were the 4 points that were mentioned in the video very briefly. Does anyone remember what these meant? They kind of demonstrated it a bit. They didn't really demonstrate it that well in the video. I'm so sorry. I wish I found something better. But they just gave like a black screen with text to explain what it was. Does anyone remember what these are? Or just want to take a guess at one of them? Any of them? And if
I would
not,
say for parliamentary inquiry, it's mainly to ask a question when somebody has said their piece.
yes, yeah, that's perfect. And parliamentary inquiry is kind of a mouthful. It would just normally be a point of inquiry, not a point of parliamentary inquiry, but I guess they're fancy in this photo. But yeah, it's exactly as you explained it. It's someone to ask a question about something. It could be anything. It could be after someone said something. It could be to the chair. It could be anyone, really anyone. Yeah. If you have a question, you just point of inquiry, right? I have a question. That's pretty much it. Does anyone remember what point of personal privilege was? I think it's kind of self-explanatory, but like maybe for newcomers, like it's not really. Does anyone take a guess?
Isn't it like you ask for, I guess, some personal adjustment in the room? Like,
Yeah, it could be.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's just my guess. I came a little late, but
Yeah. So I think you're getting at the gist of it. So you're asking for something like you personally want something, you need something, right? So maybe you want something in the room to be different. Maybe you want someone to speak up a bit louder. Maybe you want to go to the bathroom. That's also pretty common, right? Anything like related to your personal needs is a personal privilege. Yeah. Also pretty fancily put, but yeah, it's just said that way. Point of personal privilege. If you need something personally, you can point it out. Simple as that. And it could be anything. Okay, awesome. That was a great guess setting. What about point of order? I kind of get if you don't really remember from the video, but does anyone want to try at all? Point of order.
Maybe if like I might be wrong, but is it like if something does not go according to like the procedures that are outlined earlier, like if something's illegal, quote unquote, maybe.
That is a beautiful guess. Yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So point of order, it's keeping the order. So if the format of discussion is not going the way it's supposed to, let's say the chair makes a mistake, right? Chairs are human, right? Let's say the moderator makes a mistake in how parliamentary procedure is supposed to go. You can point that out, right? You can correct your chair and be like, "Oh, point of order. I thought we're supposed to take a vote first for motioning," or I thought they said this instead of that, or anything. Yeah, it's pointing out a procedural error, right? There was a mistake made in the procedure, in the parliamentary procedure that you're in. Yeah, yes, that is exactly what it is. Perfect. Thank you for that. Okay, awesome. Then what about the last one, point of information? Did anyone take a guess on that? It's kind of a bit more nuanced than a point of inquiry, where it's just asking a general question. Point of information is a bit different than that. It's okay. Okay, so I think no one has any idea, and that's fine. So a point of information, right, is used to ask typically another delegate, right? So another person in the room who's debating with you, a question that they can clarify something in their speech. Okay, so it's kind of it's a very nuanced point. Let's say someone made a speech about something in my moderated caucus, right? Like I motioned for a moderated caucus about cheese. Let's say someone brought up something about mold in their speech and I was confused. Maybe I just didn't hear them or I wanted them to clarify. I could say, oh, like point of information, could you please better explain what you meant by da 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 da? And you direct it to a specific person in the room. That's a point of information. You're trying to get information about something, right? You're trying to just better clarify about something that was said. Typically, that's something that was said. Okay, does that make sense? You can also use this with the chair as well. It doesn't have to be another delegate. You can also point of information the chair and ask the chair to better explain something. Maybe you don't know something about the topic that you came into the room for, and you just want to ask the chair, point of information, isn't it true that blah, 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 cheese can mold? Or yeah, you can ask anything. Okay, does that kind of make sense? It's a little bit more nuanced than a point of inquiry, because for a point of inquiry, you can ask about anything. It doesn't have to be about a speech or about the topic or about discussion. Point of information is about the topic or about the discussion or asking someone to better explain something they've said. It's like debate related, right? Point of inquiry is just very general, anything. Okay, did anyone have any questions about that? Or did that make sense? Okay, cool, awesome. So whenever you guys want to use these, yeah, here it is, okay? If you want to go to the bathroom and you're in a moderated caucus, just say point of personal privilege and go. That's it. Yeah, there's no votes needed for points. It's just you ask for a point, it's gonna happen. But for motions, you have to vote for it. So it's not up to you. But points are up to you. So that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. So now we can do the drill. So this was last week's last workshop's topic. We had an amazing guest speaker. PhD student Sirad was here. She spoke about the current health crisis in Somalia, the state of Somalia in terms of healthcare, and what WHO and UNICEF are currently doing about this crisis, trying to work more with the Somali people, trying to resolve crises like the water crisis, all sorts of things. Somalia is still undergoing a lot of humanitarian issues. And yeah, this is something that we could talk about forever. So I thought because of last week, we could bring it to this week and talk more about it. So this is the topic. But first, we're gonna let everyone have a 10-minute like research period. You can like Google this topic, just scour the internet of something you want to say, and then we're gonna start a moderated caucus. But I'm gonna expect you guys to start the moderated caucus this time. Now that you know how to motion, I will hope that someone will motion for a moderated caucus on this topic, the topic of the Somali crisis, right? For however minutes you want, speaking time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the topic or about previous slides, anything before we get in? Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So I'm going to set a timer for 10 minutes. I'm going to get my gavel. And then we will start debate for a bit after it's over. Okay. So let me do that. And I'll let you know once the 10 minutes are up. 1 second. Okay. Okay, so your time will start now, and I'll mute. Okay, y'all. How are you feeling? So it's been 10 minutes. So I'm just gonna show my face again. Nice. Okay. So are we all feeling good? Do we have any questions? Okay. Awesome. Okay. So um, we're now going to move into debate. So I'm just going to immediately call into order that debate is now open. I will be the chair and I will be my co-chair. So if she can just pick on people to talk, whoever wishes to speak. I have my gavel here. So what chairs would do, what moderators would do is that whatever speaking time is set, once your speaking time is over, I'm gonna put a timer and I'm gonna bang my gavel to let you know that your time is over. And you gotta stop whatever sentence you started once I bang my gavel, okay? And that's just to keep it fair with everybody, okay? Okay. So with that, are there any motions on the floor? And this is your cue to say the motion. Typically a moderated caucus. Yeah. Are there any motions at this time?
Fine. I motion for a 5-minute moderated caucus on the topic of what can the United Nations do to resolve the crisis in Somalia, with a speaking time of 30 seconds per person.
Awesome, beautiful. Okay, so with that, all those in favor of Rishik's motion for a 10-minute, 30-second speaking time on the topic of the UN resolving the crisis in Somalia. All those in favor, you could just raise your hand, I guess. Don't have placards. Okay, awesome. With that, there was a majority. So this motion is in order. We're now in a 10-minute, 30-second speaking time moderated caucus on this topic. So now all those wishing to speak at this time, I'm going to set a timer. All those wishing to speak at this time, you could raise your hand in the chat or just go for it. It's okay. We're not super formal. Yes, Raphael, you have the floor.
All right, let me know when I'm ready.
You are ready. Go for it.
Based on the research that I did, I would say that the major problems that are occurring in the region would be terrorism, famine, and natural disasters. And I think that probably the biggest way to combat everything would be to first find the unity within the people to vote for the right person that's going to want to liberate the country and allow for aid to be there. I feel like from the research I've did, there's been a lot of civil war that's happened because it's just a divided nation at the moment. So binding together to really understand the core issues is probably the biggest thing. Finding that person that's going to be willing to make a change and that can help facilitate aid to the country rather than having many people divided.
Thank you, delegate. Also, just let me know if you can hear the gavel. Is this good?
Yeah, we can hear that.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Okay. Thank you so much, delegate. All those wishing to speak at this time, I can't see who raises their hand. So, yes, Grishik.
Okay, so I want to start with just saying, yeah, I agree with Raphael's point about there being internal unity rather than relying on external powers to help. I feel like the period of instability can only be counteracted from within, and as was stated last week in the discussion as well, I think Sarat also agrees that there must be more reliance on Somalian people themselves rather than on which I say on Western nations like it has been for the past, right? This reliance needs to stop, and Somalia will probably get more oh developed with time as yeah as unity gets better. Yes. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah. So when I bang my gavel, You don't have to like shut up in mid-sentence. You can finish your sentence. It's completely fine. I'm not a horrible chair. It's okay. Um, yeah, that just means you just finish up the sentence you're in. Okay. And don't worry about being cut off. If you still had more to say, you can still raise your hand and talk again. There's no limit to how many times you can talk in a mod. So no worries. All those wishing to speak, Justin, you've been recognized.
So I agree with both what Raphael and Rishik said. And building off like what Raphael said, I agree that the main issue is definitely the instability within the country. Like we discussed last week, it seems as though there's fighting between a dismembered government and kind of a bunch of militant groups within the country. So it really becomes a question of how can you help, right, a group of people when they kind of are fighting within themselves. Because as you can imagine, if you try to help, or let's say help build an infrastructure or this and that for one group, another group may, attack it or damage it in some sort of way in a military kind of fashion. So I think I agree that the main or the best way that the WHO and UNICEF can help, and the UN, would be to try to facilitate conversations between the fighting groups and try to at least get a resolution between them on the topic of bringing supplies and infrastructure into the country to just at least save the civilians and this and that, especially when we're talking about water. And I'm sure the other nations can help facilitate some sort of clean water infrastructure, something like that.
Thank you, delegate. Sorry, my gavel was not really banging properly. That's okay. Thank you so, so much. All those wishing to speak at this time. Yeah, Roshek, you have the floor.
Yeah, so once again, I definitely agree with what Justin is saying. However, I feel like it's kind of a circular paradox of some sort, right? We need some kind of some resources to be able to give the people the power to rise up in the first place, which would in turn allow them to gain more resources to develop in the future, becoming more united. I have done research on the United Nations involvement in Somalia in the past, and it seems like rather than the World Health Organization, the UNICEF, the WFP or the World, um, I feel like the World Food Program, I believe, has actually been involved in like resolving some of the crises, some of the after effects of like the drought in Somalia and stuff, right? In 2022, basically, the humanitarian aid by the WFP, Somalia deputy country director, as she stated, it brought them back from the brink of starvation in 2022. So if some such efforts are continued in the future, I feel like that's something that can be done to bring the country back from this crisis that it's currently going through.
Thank you, delegate. All those wishing to speak at this time, please feel free to raise your hand, and there's no limit. You can talk back to back. You can talk as many times as you want in this mod. Yes, Justin, you have the floor.
This is a little bit of a different idea, but I'm not sure exactly the geopolitics in Africa, but it could be valuable to maybe try to take more, not advice, but use neighboring countries as possibly like a I'm sure that it's much easier for a neighboring country to assist Somalia, for example, than for like we were talking about Western countries to just come here from 3,000 miles away and just start setting up camps and this and that. I feel like it would be a worthwhile trip to at least consult other African nations, neighboring African nations, and see what they're doing for probably similar issues.
So thank you, delegate. All those wishing to speak at this time, feel free to raise your hand, or you can just go for it if you want to. It's okay. We'll take maybe like 3 more speakers for this mod, and then we'll close. Rashek?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Justin is saying as well. Rather than relying on Western superpowers and stuff, it could be a sense of community within the African nations itself to kind of have the symbiotic relationship. Where right now Somalia is in a crisis and it needs help, and once Somalia gets more developed, maybe they can help other countries as well. And I feel like the surrounding countries for Somalia are Kenya and Ethiopia, so they could form a sort of like refuge for Somalian residents as well. In the meantime, as well as providing resources to the government to be able to rebuild itself from the drought and all these other crises that they're going through right now.
Thank you, delegate. We'll take 2 more speakers and I'll just close the 10 minutes. 10 minutes, 30-second speaking time is a lot of speakers. So I'll just close early for it. But we'll take 2 more speeches and then we'll close. All those wishing to speak at this time, feel free to raise your hand or just go for it. Or motion to suspend debate. Oh yeah.
I'll come in just for one last, just to build off my previous point. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm assuming that the drought crisis is not exclusive to Somalia. I mean, that would be pretty funny if somehow the climate just in Somalia happened to be drought-like. That's where my initial suggestion came from, is that I'm sure there's neighboring countries dealing with some sort of drought climate, maybe not to the same extent, but I'm sure there's somebody in the region, and there's people definitely around the world who've dealt with drought. And so again, it comes back to the possibly using other nations as reference, but not necessarily letting them just come in and do everything for you, because again, that demolishes that sense of pride within the nation.
Thank you, Justin. Great point. We'll take 1 more speech and then we will close. I'd look for a motion to adjourn debate. I suspect. Adjourn. And all those wishing to speak. Final speech. Just go for it. Be about anything. It's okay. All those wishing to speak at this time. Last words, last few words. If not, then I would recommend hearing a motion to adjourn debate. That would be cool. You can motion to adjourn debate never. So are there any motions or anyone wishing to speak?
I'd like to motion to adjourn the debate.
That is in order. All those in favor of closing debate, you can raise your hand. All those in favor. Yeah, me too. So that's cheating. The chair can't vote in it, but it's fine. Okay, so with that, this motion has passed and debate has been adjourned. Awesome. So congrats, y'all. That was your first like real MALUN simulation. In the past, we did just like just free and open debate, but that was your first kind of MALUN-esque discussion. That's what MALUN really looks like. You go anywhere and that's exactly what you did. So awesome. Thanks so much. So I can't really see the slide, but I see bits of it. But I think what this is saying is that for next week, we're going to be getting into the yellow box here that has the questions, the question mark in there. And that's just going to elaborate more on some other differences between parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rule of Order. And Rishik kind of spoiled that a little bit, right? Saying that,
Oops.
that's okay. That's okay. I love it. I'm all for it. But we're going to get into that. It's going to mainly talk about the different types of committees we see in MALUN, right? And how that's different from the actual UN. The actual UN just has a General Assembly format, which is what we just simulated, right? It's just a classic moderated caucus and then ending the day and going home. But for MALUN, you can have that and other different types of committees, right? And those other committees are called specialized committees. So we have General Assembly committees and we have specialized committees. And specialized committees come with different rules and different ways for you to motion for things and different different actions you can take as a delegate. It really elevates the playing field, kind of, as someone who's in the debate. Yeah. And it's one of my favorite forms of HealthMUN too, specialized committees. It's really fun for some people. So that's exciting. So we're gonna get into that next week.
Could you give us an example of a type of sorry, I didn't wait for the Q&A, but
okay.
could you give us an example of the type of like crisis committee maybe?
Crisis committees.
Of
Okay,
special.
yes. I like how you
Yeah.
say crisis. Crisis is a type of specialized committee. Yes. Yeah. And see, you're asking for more spoilers, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so crisis committee is a specific type of specialized committee. So what we mean by specialized, we're just spoiling already, but it's fine. A specialized committee is a committee that has let's say like additional elements to the debate. So a general assembly is what we did now in the drill, right? It's just discussion. It's just like being in the front room, just talking about the debate. It's more in tune with the UN, where you're just talking about what's going on in the real world. In specialized committees, you can change that a little bit. That's kind of more of the role playing aspect where you can simulate different things. So for crisis committees, right? So you said the term crisis. Crisis is a specific type of specialized committee. And in crisis committees, you have this element called the back room, right? So you have something called the back room in crisis committees. There's the front room where you do the mod and the discussion stuff that we did in the drill and what the UN does, but then you have the back room, which kind of simulates real life. And this is fun and it challenges you in the sense that in a crisis committee, you can see the impact your decisions make by the back room pretending to be real life and trying to pretend to show you the results of your decisions. In the UN, right, and in the real world, we can't do that, right? So in General Assembly, you just talk about something that's been going on today, like Somalia, and you guys propose some things to talk about, some solutions to focus on, and that's it. That's all you can really do. You won't know the results of that until 10 years down the line, 25 years down the line, maybe, or maybe longer. You won't know until the future. But in crisis committees, right, in crisis where you have the back room, you can pretend to kind of time skip and to kind of show you, oh, like let's say you wanted to focus on I don't know, the water crisis. Let's say you decided as a committee to send 500 jets of just dunking water on the whole country of Somalia. Sure, let's say you guys wanted that, okay? So in crisis, the backroom could come to you and say, okay, you passed this solution, you wanted this to happen, so now you caused a flood in Somalia. Now people are drowning, okay? If you cause a severe flood, you caused a new issue. What are you gonna do now? So it's kind of like that. It's kind of taking the role play factor up a notch. It's kind of like plot. I don't know how best to
It's like
explain.
D&D.
It really is D&D. It really is. Yeah, it kind of is. Now you're not just trying to represent your country or whoever you're representing or in the committee or yourself, whoever it is. You're now trying to face new crisis updates or new backroom updates on your decisions. So now you have to be more careful. You can't just talk about solutions and write it on paper and send it off and that's it. Now you have to be mindful of what could this do in the real world. It makes you critically think at a different level. So if I send 500 jets or planes of just dunking gallons and gallons of water on Somalia, what is that going to do, right? Is that going to solve the issue? And in crisis, they can kind of, they can like poke at that in a way. Yeah, it kind of is D&D. It's more D&D like. But we're gonna see that a lot better than when I'm explaining it in the future. Yes, and we're gonna do that next week. Next week is gonna be really fun. Yes. Does that
All right, thank you.
make any sense?
It does.
Okay, cool. I'm glad it does. It's really confusing to explain that. So to explain plot, right, to someone. Yeah, it is plot. Backroom is plot. Like there are people in behind the scenes when you're discussing the topic. of, okay, if they decide to do this, oh, they decided to send jets of dunking gallons and gallons of water on Somalian people. Um, let's say that the result of that is this. Now, what are they going to do? You know, just kind of a back and forth. I want this solution to pass. Backroom says, okay, this happened after that solution. Now what? And then now what? And then now what? You know? Yeah. Yes. Were there any other questions? Now that it's Q&A. Okay. Cool. So all the specialized and crisis stuff is going to come next week. It's going to be really fun. And if you weren't here for the last workshop, this is just a reminder that we recorded the workshop for you. There's a link of the recording. Our guest speaker, Siraj, she did an amazing job at explaining this topic. If you want to kind of learn about this topic better, kind of research it better, maybe in your own time, we could continue this discussion as well next time, whatever everyone feels like. But yes, we have it recorded, and you can get to know Siraj a little bit better. And yeah, it also has our
It should
contact.
also
Mhm.
be on YouTube right now. So
Oh yeah, yes. We put things on YouTube as well, just to make the sending the links and videos and stuff easier than like just sending the file. But yeah, that's just a heads up. But other than that, thank you so much for coming. That's pretty much it. Thanks y'all so much. We'll see you next week when we talk about those additional differences. Take care, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Take care, y'all. Have a good night.
yep. Oh wait, stop recording.
Yeah.